Alright, as a lot of you have seen my LS S10 on YouTube with the LS1 AFR heads, LS6 intake. It's ran a best of 1170s and during drag week in the quarter mile. Well, a lot of people ask me, what are you going to do with your truck? What are you going to do with your truck? Well, I didn't really want to cage it, but at the same time I wanted a faster truck. It got kind of boring, to tell you the truth. I enjoy building more than I like driving or enjoying my cars. So my boss at work was trying to set me up on a race with another guy at work that runs a twin turbo Duramax. Single turbo, he ran 1170, same as this car. Well, that gave me the inspiration to go ahead and build a bigger motor for the S10. I'll probably get kicked out of the track my first run, then maybe I'll cage it, we'll see. But anyways, what I decided to do is put in an LS7. Bone stock from the factory, 505 horsepower engine with a dry sump. Well, in an S10, there's not really room to do the dry sump, at least not with all the accessories I have. If I gutted the truck, which I don't want to do, I could do the dry sump. So I'm converting this one to a wet sump. I do work for a GM dealership, but all these parts bought for the LS7 minus the head bolts and a few other things, they've been purchased on eBay as used parts, or Corvette Forum's another great place to source out parts for an LS7. I found a bare block for like $700 that had a damaged sleeve, sent it to a local machinist, put in a new sleeve for it, no big deal, done. The other thing you need to swap on an LS7 to make it a wet sump is swap the reluctor reel to a 24 tooth instead of the 58 tooth reluctor reel. So I had the same machine shop swap me out a reluctor reel for $60 plus the parts. Then you have to decide whether or not you want to run knock sensors. My tuner likes knock sensors. I kind of do too. Stock LS7 knock sensors don't communicate with the LS1 platform computer, especially not the way I'm running this thing. So I drilled and tapped out the factory existing LS7 holes to a 10 by 1.5 to accept the LS1 knock sensor. Also, you have to drill to get the oil dipstick tube in. And that was another fun one. There is a boss there from the factory, but there's no hole in it. You can buy a jig for like $80 or $120, whatever it is. Just figure out what size it is, drill as close to the center as you can, and this knock sensor removed. You can get it in, good tight fit, put a little silicone sealer on it, and your knock sensor does clear it just fine after you put it in. So I'm also switching to an LS2 timing cover, LS2 cam sensor, and the GM hot rod oil pan. Most of the parts that I get at cost from the dealership you can get just as cheap off of gmpartsdirect.com, sometimes even cheaper than I can get at the dealership, and I pay 10% over dealership cost. So I'm going to do now, I got one piston left in here. This is stock LS7 crankshaft. I will use the spacer instead of cutting the end of the snout off. You can cut the snout off and get away with this in a wet sump application. But I'm going to leave the snout, the stock length, use the spacer in a stock Corvette balancer. Also switched over to GTO LS2 timing gears and to make it communicate with the LS1 PCM because they haven't switched over to the 58X. So I got one piston left in here. Rotate the motor over straight up and down. Alright, a couple of tools to help you do this job easier. I got my piston all loaded up. I still haven't got the bearing in it yet. I'm using just factory GM rings on it. You can use two different types of ring compressors. Use the old standard spring steel kind that may or may not work. You may or may not have to use 3 or 4 different times to try to get a piston in the hole without the rings popping out. Or my favorite, get the exact size compressor for the bore. The only downside is every different bore size needs one of these if you go this route. I got one for big blocks, and now I have one for the LS7 bore, 4 1/8-inch bore. These things, they work, they're kind of junky. Also, since I am a GM tech, I prefer to use a Snap-on 3/8 torque wrench that will do the angles for you. If you're not doing this stuff every day, you probably really don't need this one, but if you are, this is the one I recommend. It's quick, it resets itself fast, and it's accurate. It is expensive, but I make my money with it. And then you need a small 1/4-inch torque wrench is what I use for the first torque. And GM rod and main bearings throughout the motor. Alright, put the bearings in, it's real easy. They only go in pretty much one way. And then I like to use the heavy assembly engine lube for the bearing surface. Put a nice squish path on it. I like to make sure, some people like a little bit of oil on the back sides of where the bearings ride for supposedly cooling effect. I don't know if that's true or not, I just like them clean. Go ahead and get my bearing cap loaded. Put another little squeeze of the engine assembly lube. And here's something else that I'm sure people won't like. I like to use transmission fluid for the rings. They seat in good, they seat in fast. If you use a heavy oil, you run the risk of running a ring that doesn't seat in good enough, especially on like my other drag cars that I have. I've had problems seating in rings because I used to use heavyweight oil. Now I pretty much use training fluid on all of them. If your engine's going to be sitting for a long time, use a heavier engine oil. But for what I'm doing, this engine will be running here in a month or two. Just use training fluid is what I like. If you don't like it, that's fine. I don't care. And I just like to take a looper up a little bit. Get it all over the rings, along the piston. Alright, piston in. Dot forward. On the LS motors, the dots always go forward. Use a hammer handle or your hand. Some of these I've done by hand, some of them do by hammer handle. Just get it past the rings. Boom. Good job. And I like to kind of guide it down on the crankshaft. So just tap it. Alright, that's down. I did use all new bolts completely throughout the crankshaft and the rod bearings that you're supposed to because they are torqued to yield bolts. So get your rod cap set up. On these it's real easy to line up. The smooth side goes to the smooth side, the numbers go to the numbers. Start your rod cap on there. Get this turned around where you get your wrench on it. Start everything lightly by hand. Get her snugged up. And this thing needs to be torqued down 15 foot-pounds and 110-degree torque angle. There's my 15 foot-pounds, 180 inch-pounds. Torque wrench on. Zero out. It's already set at 110 degrees. And that's that. Next time I'll show you, gonna set the oil pump on here. I got the LS7 cylinder heads down here. Stock LS7 valley tray. I beautified it up a little bit, threw it on the mill. I always think mill marks look pretty cool, so I did that to a stock LS7 valley tray. And hopefully here in a month or two when my harness gets done, I can just throw this in the truck. And with my cam and intake, which I'll show you later, I should be putting out around 620 to 650 horse at the flywheel.